And we're still learning about dreams. We've got one more page about dreams. So maybe we'll try to finish it today. The Gemara that we learned on Friday spoke about a number of dreams that we tried to, seemingly majority of these dreams, we're trying to, explain them in a positive way. A person sees a myrtle, means he's going to have success, and his assets will be a success. If he doesn't have any assets, then he's going to get an inheritance.
Rabbi.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, is this considered the mother lode of dreams, or is there other places in the Gemara that talks about dreams in this kind of depth?
I think this is the place. I think this is the source of all dreams. So pack it in now, and this is about it. If you want to ever interpret dreams, now you'll have the source. You could open up a business now.
Right. We got a certificate now. We have a certificate.
But what is really interesting is we sort of have an understanding of the parsha that we just read with all the curses, how they can be interpreted for the positive. We see from all these dreams. In fact, we were quoting psukim earlier from this week's parsha, but somehow, even though the curses in the parsha seem to be like such terrible things, but there's really there's ways of translating them for the positive. So this is really fitting for the parsha that we read, to see how all these dreams that you would think are terrible things are really sometimes a very positive thing.
Also,
how far are you going now back? How far back are you going now with the repetition? Where do you start?
I'm just reviewing a little of what we did on Friday.
Yeah, which is what? Nichnas lekrach or before that?
Well, I wasn't so exact. I was just starting about a hadas, which is maybe like halfway down the page. Haraya hadas. Person sees a myrtle in the dream.
Also, I wanted to
look at the pasuk, creates hadar.
Okay.
I'm sorry, David. What do you want to say?
I wanted to ask, the whole idea of like fortune telling is so forbidden by Torah, but dreams, these dreams interpretations have the okay, like the official Torah okay.
Yeah, well, we spoke a little about it on Friday. You sort of asked the same. You mentioned the same idea on Friday. I don't know if.
Sorry, my memory's
okay.
not so good.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, no, we spoke a little about it. We're going to see soon. The Gemara is going to say that a dream is a 60th of prophecy. So this is like Hashem telling you something. While going to a fortune teller is someone else is sort of initiating, making up something. It's baloney maybe, but this is there is an element of prophecy here. So it seems like that might be a connection why it's acceptable and why it's appropriate to at least interpret it for the positive. It also might be an idea of an element of emunah, of bitachon, of having faith in Hashem, that even though you see like a bad dream, but you have to think positive, interpret it for the positive. It might be like an avenue. It might be a way of motivating people to start thinking positive. The common way in the world is, if it can go Murphy's Law, if anything could go wrong, it will go wrong. And that's the way a lot of people think. And this Gemara is really teaching us that it goes by how you interpret things. And you should really think positive, and Hashem cares for your good. And so it's sort of like it's a lesson. It's like an activity to work on yourself, giving you some practice. Make sure to think positive. I wanted to mention there's a story with Reb Meir Simcha of Dvinsk. There was a great rabbi wrote some very powerful svarim, wrote some major books one on the Rambam, one on Chumash, Meshech Chochma, or Sameach, and so this Reb Meir Simcha, some lady had a dream where she saw a grave with her name on it and a date of her passing, and there was blood, and she thought this must be a terrible dream. She had it twice, so she went to Reb Meir Simcha, and Reb Meir Simcha said, "Listen, you never had any children. This is a sign." He interpreted the dream that it means you're going to have a son, you're going to have a child. And she was a little shocked, but that's, they didn't have a kid for many years. And this is how Reb Meir Simcha interpreted it. And sure enough, 9 months later, or on the day that it said that she's going to die, that was the day that the baby was born. So she went to him afterwards and said, "How did you think that what's the connection between, a grave with a date and blood? How is that I'm going to have a child?" He said, very simple. The Gemara in Nida mentions that ein psichas hakever b'lo dam. It's sort of like a different way of translating the words. The Gemara refers to if a doctor ever does a procedure and a woman's uterus opens, it's impossible that blood doesn't come out. There's definitely blood that comes out. But if you translate the words literally, ein psichas hakever b'lo dam, it means that the opening of a grave always has blood, and what that means is that this woman is going to have a child. In other words, it has something to do with her womb, and there was blood. So, in other words, it literally means a grave, but it refers to a woman's womb, and the same word kever could mean a grave. It could also mean a womb. So, ein psichas hakever b'lo dam. So he said that your dream fit those words, and it refers to a woman having her period. So that's or a woman having, something to do with the uterus. So he interpreted the dream that she's going to have a child. Sure enough, she had a child on that day. So the idea is that the dreams do come according to how you interpret them, and it's important to have confidence that Hashem is doing something good for you. So the Gemara mentioned all these different ideas, different things.
I'm sorry, but maybe it could have been interpreted that you're not going to die childless. That's why the grave is, is.
It's good she went to Rabbi Meir Simcha, not to you. Anyway.
Before that date, you're going to have a child.
Okay, so anyway, so the Gemara mentions all these different things that are a sign for certain things. Like, so a person has a dream of a hadas, a myrtle, going to have success, or he'll have get an inheritance. And Ula said only if you see the myrtle on its base, which means growing from the ground. Person sees an esrog in a dream, means he's beautiful in the eyes of Hashem. Person sees a lulav in a dream, it means that he has total subservience to Hashem. Person sees a goose in a dream, said it's a sign for wisdom. And if a person has relations with the goose, it's a sign he's going to be a Rosh Hashiva. Rav Ashi had this type of dream, and he became a Rosh Hashiva. The person sees a chicken in a dream, he's going to have a ben zachar. They'll have a male child. And the reason why chickens seem to be connected to a child is the Gemara uses the term that when the reason why the rabbis made a rule that men should go to mikvah after, why should they go to mikvah? In order to study Torah or to pray, they should go to mikvah. Why did the rabbis make such a rule? It's called the Tfilas Ezra, the the tefillah that Ezra established, going to dunking in a mikvah before they study Torah or pray. What the reason for such a thing was shelo yehei tamidei chachamim ketarnagolim, that the scholars shouldn't act like tarnagolim, like chickens. What does that mean? That chickens are a sign of people of creations that constantly are having relations. I don't know what the science says about this, but the Gemara considers the chickens and the roosters and the hens are constantly together. And that's a sign of being together too much. And so the rabbis made a decree that men should go to mikvah whenever they are impure after having relations. This will stop them from having relations every night, so that they won't be like tarnagolim. So here the Gemara says, if you have a dream of a tarnagoil, it's a sign that you're going to have a child. So it seems like chickens have this symbol of having relation, the concept of having relations. Yes, Ben.
I have a problem with that being a Rosh Yeshiva.
You're jumping back. Okay, going back to the person has relations with a goose, it's a sign he'll be a Rosh Yeshiva. Yeah.
I thought, constantly they tell you cannot be with the animal.
Even if they didn't tell you, I don't know who would want to anyway.
And you're getting paid for it to be a Rosh Yeshiva.
So this is you have to understand that the concept of a goose is that it makes noise, that it gives drushes, gives speeches, so to speak. It makes a lot of noise. And so that's the concept of a Rosh Yeshiva. Now, having relations with it seems to be similar to the idea that we had before, that a person has relations with his sister, with his mother, with his all these seem to be good signs. So obviously we're talking about a person here that it's not like he's thinking about this during the day. And he just happens to have such a dream, and it's a sign that he's going to have, he's going to be a Rosh Yeshiva. These are, in other words, somehow he's getting a sign from heaven, and why he's not getting prophecy directly, and it has to be in such a strange way, seems to be maybe because the generation doesn't deserve him to have prophecy.
How do they even think, the rabbis, how do they even think about things like that as an example? Is what I'm saying, I don't understand that.
So you have to understand that the teachings of the Gemara are traditions that they have passed on, and that they are teachings that they understood when or from Gemara, or from Psukim, from verses, when they see, somehow it comes to them. This idea is given to them as from their understanding, directly from Hashem. Now, it seems that the person and people are having these type of dreams because they don't deserve to have, they're in a generation that's very low. They don't deserve to have direct prophecy or vision. So therefore they have to have it in such a roundabout way. A dream that they're having relations with a goose is a sign that they'll be a Rosh Yeshiva, but it's an element of concealment.
It's a sign that something is wrong with them.
No, not necessarily with the generation, maybe. That it's a concealment that in the generation, that has to come down in such a way. Okay. And the Gemara continues and mentions a person has a tarnagoylim. He sees many chickens in a dream. It's a sign that he's going to have many sons. Tarnagoyles, if he sees a hen in a dream, it's a sign that he will have a beautiful garden. Or another pshat, it seems like a beautiful shul. Person sees a goyzim in a dream. Kishuim sees nuts, cucumbers, glass, anything that breaks. I'm sorry, I skipped some. Person sees an egg in a dream. It means that his desire, his interest will be in some type of a state of hanging. It'll be hanging in the air, so to speak, like unfulfilled. It's like his wish, his desire is like hanging. So
it's sealed in.
it's potentially there, but it hasn't developed. If the eggs broke in the dream, that's a sign that his desire is going to be fulfilled. And David mentioned to us from the Steinsaltz that it has to do with the fact that in Hebrew, in Aramaic, the word beitzah is translated as beya. And beya actually has two meanings. One is an egg, and another meaning of beya is a request. So if he sees a beya in a dream, it's a sign that his request, if it cracks, it's a sign that it's something to do with his request. Either his request is in some type of suspense, or his request will be fulfilled. If the egg's broke, it's a sign that his request will be fulfilled. So it's connected to the word beya. That's a nice shot. The Gemara continues, says the same thing applies to nuts, because they're in a shell, in a kashuim, cucumbers, and glass. Anything that breaks, this would be a sign for his desire will be fulfilled. It is interesting. I don't know why kashuim fit that. I would think glass and goizim and nuts would fit this. I don't know exactly why kashuim, cucumbers, would have that.
Kashuim is not cucumbers, though. Kashuim have a hard skin. So
what
if
is
that
kashuim?
Breaks, what do you call it? I forgot the word now. I'm sorry.
Some type of a pumpkin or squash?
Yeah, squash.
Squash? Uh-huh.
Yeah, kashuim is squash.
Uh-huh. So maybe that's why. Okay, thank you. Maybe that's the meaning. Okay. So anyway, anything that can break is the same, falls into the same category. Then the Gemara mentions if a person sees himself entering a krach, a big city or a city with a wall, it's a sign that his interests, his wants will be fulfilled. Person has a haircut, so it's a sign that it's a good sign. He has a haircut and his beard is cut. It's a sign that him and his entire family. He sees himself in a small boat, it's a good sign for him, and a big boat, it's a good sign for him and his family. And this means this applies if the boat is lifted up riding on the wave. If a person has a dream that he relieves himself, it's a good sign, as long as he doesn't dream that he cleaned himself. He wiped himself. Now, a person who goes up to a roof in a dream, that's a sign that he's going to rise to importance. And if he goes down from a roof in a dream, it's a sign that he's going to go down from a place of importance, of dignity, of important job, of dignitary. But Abai and Rabba they both say that it means no. Once you're up there in a place of importance, that's a good sign. It doesn't matter if you go down. Now, a person tears his clothes in a dream. It means you're tearing up a decree, a harsh decree, Zardina decree, but I guess it refers to a bad decree. A person who stands naked in a dream, so it depends where he is. If he's in Babylon, then it's a sign that he is empty of sin. If he's in Eretz Yisrael, it's a sign that he's empty of mitzvahs. And we mentioned, because Eretz Yisrael has whatever you do there is a mitzvahs. You have a dwelling there, and you have many mitzvahs, like separating tithings and so on. And then the Gemara mentions that if a person is caught by a Roman soldier, a Roman officer, it's a good sign that he's going to be watched, he's protected from, and if he's put in chains, it's a better sign. It's a watch, he's going to be watching on top of a watch. He's very protected, but that specifically with chains doesn't apply to a rope. Then a person talks about, then the Gemara mentions the person has a dream about sees himself, he enters a marsh, so he's going to be a Rosh Hashiva, but if he enters a forest, he's going to be like, at least one way of understanding it is he's second to the Rosh Hashiva. He's like, he runs the review program. So he'll be one notch down from a Rosh Yeshiva. It seems like called the Reish B'nai Kala. And Rav Papa Rav Huna, they saw a dream. Rav Papa, went up to the to a marsh, and he became Rosh Yeshiva. Rav Huna prayed Rav Yeshua. He went to a forest, and he became the head of B'nai Kala, that other type of teacher. Some say that they both went to an agam, but they both went to the marsh. But Rav Papa was Tali Tavla. He had the bell and hanging from him, and so he became Rosh Yeshiva. Rav Huna didn't have this bell, and therefore it was a sign that he wasn't going to be the same level Rosh Yeshiva. It's going to be one notch down, at least according to some pshat. There is a pshat that it means he's actually greater than the Rosh Yeshiva, the Reish B'nai Kala, because according to another way of learning, B'nai Kala meant you teach the excellent students, the Harvard level students. That's B'nai Kala. It's the exceptional, the gifted,
the advanced students.
The advanced students. So that's another way of learning it. It means he's actually greater than the Rosh Yeshiva, because the Rosh Yeshiva has, like everyone is. A marsh has big reeds and small reeds and medium-sized reeds. A forest only has very big trees. So it's a sign that it's like he's a teacher of the best. That's one way of learning it. The other way is a different way of translating it. That B'nai Kala means, it seems like Rashi follows the way I translated it initially, because Rashi says that he's sort of teaching the students that are going over their teaching, and they didn't understand their teacher completely, and he explains it to them. It's unclear. You could translate Rashi, I guess, both ways, but anyway, that's the two pshatim, two explanations here. Okay, so Rav Ashi says, I went to an agam, and I tied this. I had this bell tied to me, hanging from me, and I also was ringing the bell. So I became, and he became a Rosh Yeshiva. So, it could be that it's not enough to maybe have the bell hanging from his neck. You have to also be ringing the bell. Okay, now Tana said in front of Rav Nachman by Yitzchok, he mentioned that if a person bloodlets in a dream, his sins are forgiven. The Gemara says, what do you mean? And we thought it means Sidurim, his sins are organized for him. Words is they're organized in a way that they're ready to be forgiven. And
Rabbi, if I can say, in the dictionary it says kishu is squash, like you said, or marrow. I never heard of marrow. What's marrow?
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. Kishu and marrow. Maybe it's a different. Maybe there's some type of a vegetable. I don't know, called a marrow. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds strange.
Marrow, M-O. No.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, the reason why a person who lets blood, it means his sins are forgiven, is because he's getting rid of the red. Red is a sign. In fact, in Slichas, we see it also. Im yadimu katela katzemer yiyu. All the words in the slichas are all about get rid of our red. The sin is a sign of red. Red is a sign of sin, I should say. And so we want whiteness as a sign of purity and cleanliness. So anyway, getting rid of the red, bloodletting is a sign that a person's sins are forgiven for him. Okay, then the Gemara mentions that the person sees a snake in a dream. It's a sign that he'll have his parnasa all organized. If the snake bites him, it's a sign he's double parnasa for him, double sustenance. If he kills the snake, it means he's killing the ability to have an easy livelihood, because the snake has all the dust in the earth to live on as his food. So since a snake never has an issue with parnasa, you see a snake never has an issue with sustenance. If you see a snake, it means you're always going to have parnasa. But if you kill the snake, it means you killed your parnasa. Made a bad choice. You made a bad decision. in business. You killed the snake. It means you're going to do something wrong and destroy your parnasa is going to be lost of the parnasosui. So Rav Sheshes says,
I'm sorry, Reb, I want to add. I'm looking now in English, in the English side, marrow is the whatever is in the bone,
that I understand. But,
so it's also, in a hard shell in the bone.
So it's called kishuin? That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
There must be another word for marrow. Is there another word for marrow in Hebrew?
No.
No?
I don't know if there is.
So you have...
But marrow, it says leshed, moach hatzamot, and kishu.
Moach, that's it, moach. Moach is the common word for marrow.
In Yiddish you say marech.
Ah, that I don't know. That's, But in Hebrew, moyach is the term used.
Yeah.
For the marrow, I think.
Moach hatzamot. So anything enclosed in a hard shell, I guess.
It's kishuim. Interesting. But what's the term now for cucumbers in Hebrew? What are they called?
Melafon.
Melafon. Okay. Right.
Okay. So moach is the brain, which is enclosed in a hard shell.
Right. Okay. So the Gemara says that the person sees the snake. Then Rav Sheshes says, "What do you mean? If you kill the snake, for sure you're going to have a double parnasa." And but the Gemara says, no, it's not true. Rav Sheshes just wanted to think that way and interpret his dream that way because he had such a dream. But really, in a dream, it's not really. Doesn't really mean that. Then the Tana said, okay, let's start here. Tani Tama Kamei Rav Yochanan. The Tana taught in front of Rav Yochanan about drinks. Three lines up from the bottom of the page, 57a. 57a.
It's Dalet in the Steinsaltz.
Tani Tana Kamei Rav Yochanan. A Tana learned in front of Rav Yochanan, which means a person who knew all the many brises, knew many of the teachings of the Tanoic sages. He would repeat them to the rabbis, and they would interpret them and expound on them. So this Tana, he was talking some of these teachings in front of Rabbi Yochanan. He said, "Kol minei mashkin yafan lachalem." All types of mashkin, of drinks in a dream is good for it's a good sign in a dream. Chutz min hayayin, except wine. Why? Some drink wine in a dream, and it is a good sign for them. Some drink it, and it is a bad sign. Some drink it, and it's a good sign because Shenemar says wine rejoices the heart of a person. Some drink it, and it's a bad sign because Shenemar says it says give sheikhar, some type of like beer or strong alcohol to oived, to someone who's going to die, and yayin, wine, to someone who's marei nefesh, who has a bitter soul. So Amalei Rabbi Yochanan Tana, Rabbi Yochanan said to a Tana, or to the Tana, Tani, teach in the Brisa, Talmud Chacham, Le'olam Tov, like Tani, you should learn in this, or this story, Rabbi Yochanan answered him back. He said, Talmud Chacham Le'olam Tov, like for a scholar, it's always a good thing. As it says, L'chu lachmi b'lachmi, Suyu yayin b'yayin masachti. That shows that wine is good. Go eat my food, eat my bread, and drink the wine that I put together, that I poured and I mixed. So you see from here that it's like it's a good sign. So basically, it's wisdom talking. This is a pasuk in Mishlei, and wisdom says, "L'chu lachmu b'lachmi, suyi b'yayin masachti." So wisdom is saying that drink wine. So in other words, someone who's a scholar, wine is a good thing for them. But okay, we turn the page now. 57b. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Hishkim v'nafal pasuk l'sech piv." If a person woke up and there was a verse that came to his mouth when he harezu nevuah katana. This is a small prophecy. So if a person has a pasuk that comes to him, that's when he woke up. It's a sign that immediately when he wakes up, he's got a pasuk on his lips. That's like a prophecy. Tana Rabban, the rabbis learned, Shleisha Malachim Heim. There are 3 kings that if you see them in a dream, we'll see what it means. Haraya David Bachlaim, person sees King David in a dream. Yitzchok Chasidus should expect some level of Chasidus, becoming a Chassid, a pious Jew. What does that mean? Because David HaMelech said that I am a chassid. Shomer nafshi ki chassidani, right? He said, guard my soul because I am a chassid. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have langa pious, the long here on the side banks, but it means that you will be a chassid, and spiritually you'll be righteous, very righteous and pious. If you see David HaMelech in a dream, because David was a symbol of Chassidus, of being a chassid. And we had in the earlier Gemara, in the beginning of the tractate, about how he says that I wake up so early and to study Torah, and wakes up at midnight to learn Torah. And
wakes him up,
right? And he also his hands are busy trying to be metaher isha labayla, like he checks any, like a lot of times a woman might have a stain or some type of a color that of blood, and she's not sure if it's blood or it's just a discharge. And so especially in the olden days, they had to check it out because they had items that were used in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, that had to be pure. And the Kohanim, they ate truma, and so they needed to know if a woman was pure or impure. And there was also a woman being pure to her husband or impure to her husband. So so it says David HaMelech, he says, my hands are bloody from permitting a woman to her husband, and so in other words, you would think a king is much higher than getting his hands dirty from such a thing, but he said that I am a chassid because I do that, because I humble myself and try to be metaher isha labayla, try to permit a woman to her husband, try to find some to see if it's possible that a woman is permitted to her husband. Otherwise, if he wouldn't do that, then a woman might just have to be machmir and be strict. But he was, he looked to see if it was permissible. In other words, it wasn't real blood; it was just like a discharge. Okay, so then the Gemara says that person sees Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, means he has acquired wisdom. He's going to acquire wisdom, should expect wisdom. And the reason is because we know that Shlomo HaMelech was Chacham Mikol Adam, the wisest of all people. Achav, person sees Achav in a dream, Yidag Mina Paranos, he should expect some type of a Paranos punishment. It's brought down, the commentaries ask, what about other wicked people? Achav was one of the most wicked kings, but there were also Yeravam ben Nevat, there were also other wicked kings. But it says that Achav, not only did he lose his Olam Haba, the next world, he also died a terrible death in this world, in war. And so, because he didn't die on his bed, and he died in a war, that was considered that he lost two things. He lost this world and the next world. He lost, in other words, he was punished in both this world and the next world. And because of that, if someone sees Achav, this wicked king, in a dream, it's a sign that he's gonna Peronis, punishment is coming for him because he's got like a double punishment. Even though Yeravam ben Nevat also was a wicked king and he lost his Olam Haba, his world to come, but he didn't die in a war. He died in honors, with honors in his bed. So because of that, even though he was very wicked and lost his Olam Haba, but that wouldn't be as much of a sign of punishment as it is to see Achav in a dream. Now, Shleisha Nevi'im Haim, there's 3 books of prophets that if a person sees them, we'll see what it means. Haraya Sefer Malachim, person sees the book of Kings, Yitzapa, the Gedula, it means he should expect that he is going to become great. A person sees Yechezkel, if a person sees the book of Ezekiel, Yitzapa L'chachma, should expect wisdom. The reason why wisdom is because the book of Yechezkel talks about the chariot of heaven, and only certain people were able to understand that, and a lot of secrets are there, and it's only allowed to be taught to certain people, the selective, and therefore means he's a sign of wisdom. Yeshaya, a person sees the book of Isaiah, Tzapel and Achame, should expect consolation, and that's very apropos for now because we're in the midst of the Shiva Dinachamta, the seven haftarahs that are all about consolation, and they're all from the book of Isaiah. And so the person sees the book of Isaiah, it's majority consolation, and therefore, it starts with consolation, it ends with consolation. Therefore, if you see the book of Isaiah, it's a sign of consolation. How about if a person sees the book of Yirmiyah, Jeremiah, Yidag Mina Peronos, he should be afraid of punishment because the book of Yirmiyah is all about the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, or at least majority. And therefore, it's a sign of punishment. So the only thing is that it seems like we mentioned 4 things: Malachim, Yechezkel, Yeshaya, and Yirmiyah. So the Gemara started that it says 3. So there's a question which one to skip out. Some say skip out Malachim, Yeshaya. Different opinions how to skip what. There seems to be a mistake in one of these. In other words, it mentions 4 things, but it started off that there's only 3. Okay, then the Gemara continues to say Shleisha Ksuvim Gedolim Haim. There's 3 large books of the Ksuvim. A person sees the book of Tehillim, right? Say Tehillim, Yitzhak Chassidus should expect to see piousness and Chassidus because it's connected to David HaMelech. So, and in addition to the fact that many of the Psalms are connected to elements of piousness as well. Mishlei, a person sees the book of Mishlei, Proverbs, Yitzhak L'chachma should expect wisdom, because it's all from King Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech wrote it, and it's also great wise advice. Eov, a person sees the book of Eov, Yidag Mena Peronos, you should expect punishment because all the suffering of Job is a sign of punishment. What about 3 small books of the writings? If you see them in a dream. A person sees the book of Song of Songs, which is all about love story between a man and a woman. So Yitzhak Chassidus should expect to have piety, and the reason why is because the whole book of Shir Hashirim, even though it seems like all love, but it's really a metaphor for loving Hashem. So if a person loves Hashem, so that's real Chassidus. Chassidus is a person has Avas Hashem. That's a sign. That's a element, a strong element of Chassidus is to love Hashem. So a person sees Shir Hashirim, so it means he will reach a level of loving Hashem so much he'll be called a Chassid. Koheles, a person sees the book of Ecclesiastes. So Yitzhak L'chachma should expect wisdom. Again, it's written by Shlomo HaMelech, and it's all very wise points. And the Gemara continues, says, Kinas, what about a person sees the book of Eicha? That's a sign, Yidag Mena Peronos, it's a sign of punishment. Hooray, Megillas Esther. What about if a person sees the book of Esther? So that is Nes Nasaloi. A miracle will happen for him, and just like all the book of Esther is all about the miracles of the Jewish people. The Gemara then continues, says, there are 3 wise scholars. A Rebbe b'cholim person sees Rebbe, the person who authored all the Mishnahs. Rebbe compiled the Mishnahs. So Rebbe is a sign of Yitzchok Chachma. It's a sign of wisdom, as he did this major work of wisdom of compiling all the Mishnahs. Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, person sees Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, he should expect wealth, because Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah is very wealthy. And Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha, Yidak ben Aparon. The person sees Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha in a dream, it's a sign of punishment. And the reason is because he was one of the 10 that were murdered by the Romans in a very barbaric way and a terrible way. And therefore it's a sign of punishment. Now,
Rabbi, I'm sorry to disturb you. I see that only three Nevi'im are mentioned, because the first one is Sefer Melachim. It's not a Navi. And then the second one is Yecheskel, and you know, it's only 3 Nevi'im and 1 book of Melachim.
So that's one way of learning it. Another way of learning it is that it means the book of Yecheskel, the book of Yeshaya, the book of Yirmiyah.
I know, but they don't say that.
If it means the book,
but
then Malachim would also be a book.
Right, but they mention 3 names. So when you see that Navi, that prophet,
that book or the person, the book or the person,
the person.
So
right.
Again, if you want to look,
the book is in addition to the 3 persons.
That's one way of learning it. That Shloisha Nevi'im Haim, there are 3 prophets. If you see the prophet, then you will have these great things happen to you, right? Or bad things happen to you, chas v'shalom. But if you learn it that it means 3 books of Nevi'im, then Malachim fits right in, because Malachim is a book, Yechezkel is a book, Yeshaya is a book, and Yirmiyah is a book. In fact, really, if you want to say Nevi'im, it should be Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu. And because it says Yirmiyah in Yeshaya, it sounds like it's the book. And it also sounds like it's the book because it talks about the next book, Shleisha Kesuvim Gedolim and Kesuvim Katanim. So if you look at the continuation of the Gemara, it also would seem like it's talking about the books of the Nevi'im. So then but it
says 3 Nevi'im. 3 Nevi'im means persons, you know. Okay, but it's one way, okay.
Right. You do have to add a word books of Nevi'im, just like you have the word books of Kesuvim. Shleisha Kesuvim, Gedolim. But the Gemara, sometimes skips out a little, he sort of expects you to know it means the book. Okay. Anyway, the Gemara continues, and so it mentioned all these Chachamim. It's interesting that Rebbe, it says, was also very wealthy. We'll soon see that Rebbe was so rich that on his table all year round, they had certain foods that were unattainable, in many areas, but he had it all year round because he was so wealthy. So why, when you see Rebbe, is it not a sign of wealth? It's a sign of wisdom. Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, who was also a great wise person, it's a sign of wealth. So, so the thing is that Rebbe once said that I never got benefit from this world, even from my tiny pinky. I didn't benefit. That means he had all the wealth, but he never enjoyed it for his own enjoyment. He always used it for Hashem's needs. He used it for whatever was necessary for Hashem, but he didn't benefit personally from his wealth. And therefore, it's not a sign of wealth because he didn't really, he didn't have the wealth, so to speak. It was really like Hashem's wealth. So Rebbe, it's a sign of wisdom. Elazar ben Azariah is a sign of wealth. So, and Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha is a sign of Puranas. Then Shleisha Talmidei Chachamim now it mentions 3 students of the rabbis, and it mentions Ben Azai and Ben Zayma. Both of them never got smicha, and
Rabbi, we had a rabbi that released his Eved to make a minyan.
right, Rabbi.
Was that Rabbi?
No, I think it was Rabbi Eliezer, maybe.
Oh, the other one,
Yeah.
Rabbi Eliezer.
No, I don't think it's one of the rabbis here. I have to look it up, but yeah.
Okay.
So the Gemara says that these three Talmidei Chachamim, if you see them in a dream, you'll see certain things. One of them is Arei Ben Azai b'Chaloim. Ben Azai, if you see him in a dream, Yitzchok Chassidus, expect Chassidus. He was known to be very pious, and the next one is Ben Zayma. Yitzchok Chachma. Ben Zayma was a great, tremendous scholar, and certain the Gemara in Saita mentions that when he died, a certain element of interpreting verses is over. And so, in other words, he was a great scholar. So a person expect wisdom if you saw him in a dream. And if you saw Acher is another name for Elisha ben Avuya. And Elisha ben Avuya was the teacher of Reb Meir, who became a heretic. So if you see him in a dream, Yidag min hapuranos, expect punishment. And basically, it's not a good sign. All types of wild animals are good for a dream, and this we had earlier. It's yafes l'chalayim, except a pil is an elephant, a kaif is a monkey, and a kipoid, I'm not sure what it is.
Kipoid is a porcupine.
Okay.
It says in Steinsaltz, it's a long-tailed ape.
Is that porcupine a long tail?
No, but it's an ape. It's like a monkey
Today
family.
Type of monkey.
Today the porcupine is throwing the needles, at you.
Right.
That's what a porcupine is. It's not.
So
Kipod is what throws the needles from his skin, at you.
Well, there's another description of something of being a part of the weasel family.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Was that a maybe that's a porcupine? Is that porcupine?
I think they're of the same grouping.
Maybe. Okay. Anyway, so the Gemara says that V'hamar Mar Hooray Pilbach, when a person sees an elephant in a dream, it's Pelanasaloi. It means a wonder will be performed for him. So my answer is like Kasha, it's not a question. In other words, is it a good sign or a bad sign? When it says we answered earlier that it depends if he's bridled or not. If he has a saddle, if he's got a saddle, then it's a good sign. If he doesn't, then he's like it's more wild, and it's a bad sign. There is a sefer that mentions that these animals, something during the Dar Enosh in the generation where they were between when the Dar Hamabel, Dar Enosh, in the generations before
Noah,
or the flood. So there certain people turned into these animals, and so they were like the wicked people. So I guess that's maybe connected to why it's a sign of bad. It's a bad sign for pill, a monkey, an elephant, and this whatever we're translating it as, either an ape or a porcupine, weasel. Okay, any type of metal is a good sign, except mimar pesel v'kardoim. And Rashi tells us in Old French what these words are, and sometimes we have Ezra looks up the Old French, but basically it's some type of a cardum is an axe, and mar and pesel, some type of a tools that are considered a bad sign. Okay.
It says in the Steinsaltz, the first one is a hoe.
A hoe.
The second
Mar.
one is a chisel, and the third one is an axe.
Okay. Right. Pesel makes sense. A chisel. Right. Because it means to engrave, like psalacha. Yeah, chisel. Okay, good. And a mar is a hoe. Okay. What?
You can chisel a statue too.
Right. Okay. So a hoe, a chisel, and an axe. And that's when you see the handles with it. You see it in the handle. All types of fruits are good, except a unripe tamar, an unripe date. And all types of vegetables are good, except for the top of turnips. Somehow that's considered a bad sign. It's the top of a turnip. Okay. Now, Vamar Mar, didn't Master say that I didn't get rich? Rav said I didn't get rich until I saw in a dream the top of a turnip. So the Gemara answers, when did he see the top of the turnip? That's when he saw it bikanaihu, in its with its stem. He saw it growing or whatever. If he saw it with its stem, then it's considered a good sign. But if it's cut off, then it's a sign of it's like it seems to be a sign of some type of a club that's used for hitting people. So so it's a bad sign. The Reishe Lefases, the turnip tops. So the Gemara says, "Kol minei tzevayin and yafin lachaloim." All types of colors are good, chutz min atchelas, except for techelas. Techelas is that Rashi translates it here as yarait, as green, because it's a sign someone's sick. When a person turns green, if their face is green, it's a sign of sickness. So that's why it's a bad sign, techelas. Even though it's one of the mitzvahs and it's on the tzitzis and so on, but somehow it's a sign of sickness. Okay. Then the Gemara says, yes.
It says that this is the footnote in Steinsaltz. It's from Rav Yaakov Emden. Yeah. He says that some explain that the word for techelas is similar to the word for tachlis, end, and for that reason it's a bad sign.
It sounds like his end is coming. Okay. Kol minei oifais yafin lachaloim. See, Rashi translated it the way I did, but with that it's a sign of sickness because the person's face is green. But that's a nice shot also. Thank you for sharing it. The Gemara says that kol minei oifais yafin lachaloim, all types of birds are a good sign in a dream. Chutz min karya v'kipufa v'korparoi, except for these type of birds that are, and Rashi also gives us translations in Old French. So, but basically these type of birds are not a good sign, but all the other birds are. Okay, then the Gemara mentions a sign of what the next Gemara is talking about. Haguf, me'ein, mashivan, or marchivan siman. That the way of remembering the following Gemara is it's going to talk about guf twice, and then it'll talk about me'ein, mashivan, and marchivan. Okay, so the Gemara says there are three things that enter the body, but the body doesn't benefit from them. What are these three things? So the Gemara says they enter the body, but it doesn't benefit. Good gedonios, cherries, kafnios, and some type of dates that aren't considered good. They're bad dates, Rashi says, and upage tamara and unripe dates. So that those are all not good for a person. A person eats them, but they're not healthy. It's interesting that it says cherries. Cherry juice is supposed to be good for gout, I think. But anyway, the Gemara says cherries, these are bad. there's three things that the body doesn't benefit from, and it's not good gedanios, the kafnios, and page tomorrow. These three things. Okay. Three things don't enter the body, but the body benefits from them. The body benefits from Elohim. Washing, person like taking a shower, that's beneficial. A person benefits from it. He enjoys it. The sicha is some type of a smearing, rubbing on oneself. In the older days, especially, they used to do a rub with certain oils, and tashmish in having relations. So these are a person doesn't you don't eat it, you don't put it into your body, but these three things are beneficial. Shloisha me'ein olam haba. There were three things that are similar to the world to come. Elohim Shabbos, the Shabbos is like olam haba, it's like the world to come. Shemesh, the sun, and Rashi over here says when the sun shines, and the tashmish, and having relations. So tashmish demai, the Gemara asks, what does it mean? Tashmish, having relations. Does it mean physically having relations? That's similar to the world to come. If you mean having relations, a person gets weaker. A person has relations too much, it's not healthy. Mikhash kochesh should cause a person to be weak. Ella tashmish nikavim, rather it means that when a person relieves himself, that's considered me'ein olam haba. That's considered like a taste of the world to come. So it doesn't mean relations, it means generally it's translated as relations, tashmish, but here it means relieving oneself. Now, the Gemara continues, says, there are three things that bring back they bring a person back to comfort. And what are they? Elohim, koil, sound, mara, sight, vereach, and smell. And when a person has these things, I guess it relaxes a person, it brings them back. There are three things that broaden a person's mind. Elohim, these are them. Dira noya, a nice dwelling. Ve'isha noya, a nice wife, a beautiful wife. Ve'kelim noyim, and beautiful utensils. And so the point is that these things are blessing for a person. And I think people there are some letters that people wrote to the Lubavitcher Rebbe about having a new house. The Rebbe said that you should have in mind that it'll be marchiv your das. It'll be allow you to think broader and be able to not get angry and be able to learn more Torah and so on. That, in other words, having a nice house, have more guests, but it's all about a marchiv daito shel adam. Should allow you to be able to be more relaxed, more broad-minded. Now, chamisha v'shisha v'asara siman, the next thing mentions 5, 6, and 10. The chamisha, there are 5 things that are, in other words, there's going to be something about 5, something about 6, something about 10. Chamisha, there are 5 things that is echad mishishim, is 1/60th of something. And what are they? Elohim, Eish, Dvash, V'Shabbos, V'Shina. Fire, honey, Shabbos, and sleep, V'Chaloim, and the dream. So what does this mean? Eish, fire is Echad Mishishim Legehenim, is 1/60th of hell. That means that the heat of a fire, that is only 1/60th of what it's like in Gehenim, in hell. Dvash, honey, is Echad Mishishim Laman. It's a 1/60th of what the man tasted like. So if you like honey, that's just 1/60th of how delicious the manna tasted. Shabbos, the Shabbos is Echad Mishishim of Lo'ilam Haba, 1/60th of what the world to come is. Shina is Echad Mishishim Lamisa. Sleeping is 1/60th of death. But Chaloim, a dream, is Echad Mishishim Lenevuah, is 1/60th of prophecy. We're going to stop here. Okay, Zai Gesund, everyone. See you later, Mirz Hashem.
I'll
Thank you.
see you soon, Rabbi. I'm on my way.
Thank you,
over.
Rabbi.
Oh. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Sei gesund.
Bye-bye.